Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode number 18, HeroesHype Live, the water cooler of the Heroes of the Storm community. Is there a problem? Is there a problem?
No, I don't think there is at all, actually.
It's my pleasure to be joined by and hang out with the effervescent Maybe Buzz and argument for mid to late December. Got a bit of a tan going on,
man. I'm feeling a bit toasty. I've been in the oven for a while.
See, we getting an escape and stuff. We're all getting ready, and this guy, he's changed his escape avatar, and he said he claims to have given me a warning about this.
I totally did. You remember on Sunday, before we did the tournament, I told you what I was going to do.
It's a pretty cute one, too. It barely looks evil.
And then I got all of the Latin players to do it, too.
Was that you?
Oh, busted.
You were... Oh, my God.
I mean, there was one of the players that had it, and then I changed mine back, and then the other players did it. So I didn't technically tell them.
You just set the trend.
I just instigated it.
You paved the way. Thanks, Artie, man. I appreciate that.
You're sir.
But appreciate you guys coming in and hanging out with us. Again, we like to call this the water cooler of the Heroes community, where you, the audience, get involved in an organic and ongoing discussion about various topics that are pertinent and relevant to the scene. This is our 18th episode, and I feel this one's going to be pretty interesting. The two main things we're going to look to talk about are how this Hero League season is kicked off and some of its bumps in the road. And then we're going to switch over and start talking about some of the 2018 changes, like the laning phases, the stealth stuff. I was really looking to talk about that a lot last week, but I actually kind of like the idea that we ended up waiting until now because that patch has had a chance to settle in. People have gotten a chance to play it more and get past their first impressions, so we can all have a more knowledgeable and intelligent discussion. But
yeah, and there isn't that whenever anything new happens, everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, I hate it." So you're right; it gives everybody a little chance to wear it in a little bit, not feel the blisters, and love the game. Though I guess things didn't work out perfectly for that to happen.
No. But before we jump into all that, the latest season of Hero League, as you all likely know, didn't exactly have its smoothest progression leaving the dock and starting to set sail. Kind of hit some glaciers along the way. The ship sank a little bit.
We're scooping water out of the boat.
Under construction.
Lots of scooping. Yeah.
Now, before we jump into the nitty gritty of all this, I spoke with my lovely co-host and I said I wanted to give something of a disclaimer at the outset of this. Heroes of the Storm features a passionate, enthusiastic, and committed community. And in that passion, it's understandable, if not natural, to see a certain measure of frustration when there are things like this that go on. But past a certain point, the point of threatening developers and all these insults and things like that's not positive. That's not how your otherwise constructive criticism comes across. That's not who we are as a community. And at the end of the day, the developers are human beings just like us. They run into troubles, they run into situations, they may even make mistakes, they're not perfect. But they've worked tirelessly to give us a game that we all love. You're passionate and frustrated and mad to that extent because of how much you love the game. Otherwise you wouldn't care. So
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So
yeah,
keep that in mind with some of the commentary and all the folks here in the HeroesHype community, I'm sure that this doesn't necessarily need to be said. But you head over to Reddit court, you go over to the official forums, and it's wild, man. Some of the responses are just wild. So just keep that in mind.
And they're trying, I think that it's, if you don't play like different games that aren't Blizzard titles, I think that it sometimes is, you don't recognize how hard the Blizzard devs work and how much they actually do care. It's not like it's been like radio silent, like things break. Whenever you're trying to fix something, everyone complained about matchmaking for a really, really long time and rank for a really long time. So you have to expect when there's a big overhaul of a major system in the game that there's going to be bumps in the road, and it's not just going to magically work perfectly. They would love for it to work magically perfectly exactly how they want, but that usually isn't the case. So a little bit of understanding, I think, goes a long way.
I agree. Jungle Knight in the chat, hello by the way, said the forums don't represent the majority of the player base. About 5% of the entire player base actually posts there. That's a really good point. I don't know. I just felt bad for the developers reading some of this stuff. Like, I'm sure the majority of them put over 40 hours a week of their heart and soul to work on a game. It's not like, a normal job. You have to have passion that goes beyond just punching a clock, in my opinion. So for you to work this hard and to see the kind of responses that we started to see, you can put it through the lens of it's only a really small segment of the population that are making these comments. But I don't know. I just didn't like what I was seeing. I expect more out of our community. So
yeah.
But I wanted us, all to share our thoughts, feelings, and experiences about this because I think it's a healthy conversation to have. We can't always have rose-tinted glasses on about the things that go on in the hero scene. There are going to be bumps in the road like this, and I feel like they should be objectively addressed. When we first landed on this topic to go over, all right, Argy was like, I've got some stuff to say about all this. So Argy, I want to give you the floor, man. I want you to speak your mind.
So I didn't write anything down, so this is going to be off the cuff. But so the patch was last Tuesday, and I was working all day, so I didn't really get a chance to play during the day when all of my other friends were playing, because that's like patch day. They're all doing Hero League and everything like that. And then Tuesday night I was busy. All my family's doing Christmas last week. Then Wednesday I started playing. And I had heard a few things going on, so I wanted to see what was happening. And my placements went okay. I think I ended up 5-5 or 6-4, and I was Master 1K, which is what I expected since I did that last season. So I was like, whatever. And that's when I started to notice the problems of people not being where they're supposed to. I looked, one of the teammates I was playing with, he was 1,500 points in Master, and he was Plat 3 last season. And I don't know how that happens, other than you get really lucky in placement matches, is what I've understood. So I don't play as much, and I see that the affected accounts are being reset, and there was some conversation on Twitter about how we should just reset everyone because most people were affected by this at some point, correct? Yeah. So then, as we all know, everyone got reset this Saturday. And then we started again, and I won the first 2 games, then I lost 4, Then I went like 1-1-1-1-1 or something like that. I ended 4-6, and I got placed Diamond 2. What was odd to me during that time is I'm playing with people who were Plat last season, and I get placed at Diamond 2. I'm playing with Plats and Golds, and I place way above that. And I don't understand why. I'm not saying that they necessarily deserve to be like not there. Some of them are fine and they play well. Most of them are not. And I'm not saying like I'm the best player ever either, but I have proven that I am one of the higher end players in the game. I'm like in that top 2-3% or something like that. And it's not fun for me, and it's not fun for them when it's just a stomp every game, because that's basically what's happening now. Like, the last 4 games that I've played all ended with at least a 3-level lead on one side or the other. And that's not fun. And I've had issues since the reset still, where I'm getting in games with people who were placed higher or lower than they should have been. I've also had games where it's like just masters and GMs, and those games tend to be a lot better. Like, at least in terms of enjoyment. There are 2 games that I specifically wanted to talk about that happened in the past couple days. One of them was 5 hours ago. It was a Dragonshire game, and I've gotten in the habit of looking at everyone as I am in the lobby and seeing what I'm with.
Just to check.
I'm like, okay, they were Master last season. This is good. They were Diamond 3. This is fine. This guy's Plat 2. Oh, jeez. This might not be as fun. And in this particular case, the Plat 2, the lowest from the previous season, was banning over everyone else. That's the weird part to me. It's not that he's in the game, it's that he's banning over everyone. And then he's like telling how we should draft and everything. He picks Sylve, which honestly Sylve has gotten a little bit better, but not that much better.
On Dragonshire?
In general. I think she's gotten a little better just because of how the game has changed. Not in terms of like just her power. And I'm playing Leoric, and she will not leave the top lane. And I'm like, just let me do this. It's against an Azebo. I'm going to win. Go with the 4-man and do other things, please. So she leaves eventually, and we start winning the game. And then we lose one person, and she splits to the top again. I'm like, just, no, get out. I don't know. So we end up losing the game, and he's the one person flaming everyone. The one person. And I don't know like how toxic it is the lower you go. I know I've played with some really toxic people on my other accounts, so I know it can be bad on every level, but that was an interesting experience. But the main takeaway is, why is the lowest person from last season banning? Then there was one more that happened. It was a Sky Temple game, and I was looking at everyone, and I actually had a tweet about it. Let's see if I can find it.
While you're looking that up, Sugar Hots in the chat said, and by the way, thanks so much to the guys over at the Trolls podcast for giving us the host. Appreciate that. Hello, guys. This is HeroesHype Live. We like to have an ongoing and interactive discussion with folks, so feel free to chime in, and we'll get you involved in a conversation. Sugar Hot said it seems clear that the issues are not just in rank, and this is generally undiscussed. I agree, and I want to expand on that a little bit. I want to hear it. Argy's got me, and I'm committed, man. I'm locked in. I want to hear the rest of this story.
Okay, so I posted the tweet in the chat, and basically I placed Diamond 2, and I'm asking, why is this person in the photo in my game? He was Gold 2 last season, and currently in the season that we are in, at that time he was 5-0. So my only thing is, he's getting lucky from his placement matches and being put way too high off of that. So the uncertainty factor that they normally have has gone way off the charts, basically, is what I'm thinking. is happening, and that needs to be toned down a bit. He wasn't banning or anything. I think I was that game, which at this point for me is a bad sign because that means I'm the highest person.
Right. I hate that.
Like, I don't mind it normally, but when it's been this crazy, it's kind of scary. Yeah, like, I'd rather them take down Hero League and not have it until they are for sure it is fixed than to experience games that are not fun. Because I want to enjoy the game that I love and play all the time.
So, like, to play devil's advocate just on that statement right there, are there people that don't necessarily care about rank and are still going to play ranked even if there is? Like, does it matter? I think it affects, obviously, the top end more than, like, the bottom end, right? Because... like, there's a lot of people that, like, were gold and plat last season that are getting placed a lot lower. But I think that the majority of people don't care. They just queue ranked.
People get upset when they're placed extremely lower than they were expecting. Like, let's say someone who was Silver 3 last season gets placed at Bronze 5.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to be happy, even if they started at Bronze 1 and moved up to Silver 2 or 3. Like, they made progress. That should be rewarded. Maybe you get placed at Silver 4 or something to balance it out. I don't know. But you're still in the same league.
Mm-hmm.
If you get a whole league and a half lower, that just hurts. That just blows your confidence out. Whereas if you were Plat 3 and you get placed Master 1K, that could, like, shoot air into your head and inflate your ego to Mount Everest or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not healthy for the game either, because then people get ideas of grandeur or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't know. It's just, it's not good no matter which way you look at it. And then, like, you look at people like Ferociously Steph, who was Grandmaster last season and gets placed Plat 2. Like, that shouldn't happen. She's proven several seasons in a row that she is at that level. Why is she getting, like, sent down 2 whole leagues? It doesn't make sense. So, like, there's definitely issues. They need to be fixed. I am willing to wait, and I think several others are, for it to be just fixed. I don't mind playing QM. And I know there's probably issues in QM and Unranked too, but I don't know. I still, like, even with their tweet yesterday saying that they're taking a look at it and there's a possibility of a reset, I'm still going to play Hero League because I want to get better.
Right.
Like, I can't control what the other people do, so I want to get better. And I'm trying, but, you know, sometimes there's just nothing I can do, and it's infuriating.
I definitely empathize, man. I said 10 of us are willing to wait, Captain. Yeah, when you said several of us are willing, I was cracking up. Man. Berserk said prefer unranked draft over QM. Same. I guess hearing your take on things, Argy, one of the immediate things that popped in my head is someone not only was shot up in their rank, but they were doing bans. And what that says to me is that this bug isn't just affecting. I'm imagining there's a different number between your MMR and where you end up as far as the rank goes. So this bug has to be affecting both. For someone to be shot up way higher than they probably should be, and they're doing bans, which says this bug probably is a bit more extensive than some of us would prefer it to be. So we might be looking down the barrel of another reset. Who's to say?
Is it something to do with the skill-based ranking thing, maybe? And that
they've claimed
when
they took the performance space out when they did the full reset,
right?
Yeah. So they claimed that that didn't have anything to do with it. I am going to give Blizzard the benefit of the doubt. Because I trust them more than anyone else when it comes to balancing the game.
Right.
if it's still broken and they took it out, I guess that's like a good indication that
there's definitely something still wrong. So.
I just think overall the situation is unfortunate because Blizzard have worked their ass off all year. I'm pretty sure they've been able to commit to the new hero every 3 weeks ambition that they had. They're cranking out content. We got a new map. They hear the community by taking Hanamura away. They're showing that they care. They're investing not only in just the game with Heroes 2.0 and what I would pretty much call 3.0, the patch that came out recently, but they're doubling down on their investment in HGC. Like, Blizzard cares about this game. So to have something affect ranked matchmaking exacerbates one of the biggest problems that I think this game has struggled with for a long time. I don't think people are necessarily frustrated about Hero League or their ranks being reset. I think it all stems from the issue of I want an evenly matched game. No matter what rank whatever mode it is, Team League, Hero League, Unranked, Quick Match, or whatever. Speaking personally, and I'm just going to be frank, the main reason why I don't really jump into Hero League that much is because I only have so much available time to play video games. And Hero League feels more like a war of attrition than anything else. I would conservatively say 35% of my games, probably even more, is firmly dictated by what team has the worst player. If there are 9 players that are of even skill, and the 10th is, no fault against theirs, but they just don't have the game knowledge, don't have the technical ability or whatever, it's going to become apparent in team fights. It's going to become apparent in macro play. And it's going to be very difficult for those other 4 people to find success and take down enemy team's core. And that's been my biggest problem with the game, because it's like when both teams are evenly matched, some of the most fun you could possibly have on a computer. But when you go into a game and you feel like your time is effectively being wasted, because no matter what attitudes may or may not be expressed over it, you just know that, okay, the next 20 minutes of my life, I'm not going to really have that much direct impact on. Like, I can make a play here or there. I might be able to get a takedown if I'm an assassin. Maybe I land that ancestral healing. Like, let's say you're 5th pick in like, Hero League, you gotta, ban out, and you're the last pick. You end up taking a support. You take Rhaegar. And you have a Vala who is conceptually, from a draft perspective, vital to your composition. If she's able to do work, you guys have a good chance of winning the game. This so happens to be this mythical 10th player that just isn't on the same level as the rest of the people in the game. You can land the most clutch cleanses and game-changing ancestral healings as you want. If they're continually putting themselves out of position, if they're taking a suboptimal build, if they're not doing their job and pulling their weight, I don't think you're going to win. And once you understand the game to a certain point, you know what this stuff means. Like, okay, we're down, it's 8-11 right now on Infernal Shrines. I don't think I'm coming back. Like, outside of enemy team doing something crazy, this game is over. So when you understand that, having these games where someone just doesn't fit in feels bad. And this matchmaking issue has just made that come to the surface all the more. Gold 2 people rubbing elbows with Master League players? That's not positive, man.
And it's almost like it made it worse, right? Because for a long time, you've heard people, like players, complaining about this, right? Like every once in a while, you'll see a game that it's like a pro player, right, on Twitter, and they'll be like, "Why is this gold in my game?" And this is like from months and months and months ago, like over the whole past year. So it's interesting that it made it worse, it seems like.
like the game with Fan. What is Lightning Rank? Jeez. That's my favorite of the year.
Kira DGF, how's it going, man? He says you have Grandmasters, Masters, and Diamond. Even with Masters, you have low/high Masters. When you have high Masters/GMs playing with low Masters/D1, the games are imbalanced and you can feel the difference. Throwing Plats now, who skyrocketed up to Master, just completely destroys how balanced the games are. 100% agree. I mean, I feel like for the longest time, there's been this, like, uneasy/unspoken truce between Blizzard and the community where it's like, yeah, you know, a percentage of these games, whoever has the worst player loses. But for the most part, like, we're having fun. Like, we keep coming back to the game. We enjoy it overall. Enough of the games are evenly matched and fun to keep us playing. But, you know, there's this percentage of games that could definitely see some work. And one of the long-standing requests from the community is performance-based matchmaking. When they revealed all those 2018 changes at BlizzCon, outside of the camera zoom out, that was probably the most... That put a smile on my face, because I was like, that probably would make me want to play ranked more. Because even if I lose the game, if they devise a system that accurately assesses my personal skill, then I'm fine with that. Because, I don't know, I just don't really like the idea of just winning or losing, determining your rank. Because there's so many things outside, like, how can you have a personal assessment for a ranking when it's such a team-based game? You can't win on your own. Mm-hmm. So, how do you have, you know... But anyway. So, a lot of the community sees this announcement and they're like, yeah! Excited as I am. But now it's on the radar of the community. Now the idea of keen, sharpened matchmaking is effectively expected. This is what they wanted for a long time. This is what's been announced. This is what's coming out. And it comes out and they run into problems like this. It's just like pouring gasoline and lighting a match on what's been a long-standing issue that kind of fell dormant for a while. And it just kind of, I don't know. It's unfortunate.
And there were issues with the performance-based thing already, too.
I mean, I can see the argument where it's like, if you manage to win a game, right, on a team where 4 of you are really in line and one person, you have like the AFK Gazlo in lane, or you have somebody that just like feeds with like 8 or 9 deaths in the game and everyone else has like 2, but this one person has like 9 deaths. Like, do they deserve credit for, or as much credit, or is that where the performance-based matchmaking is supposed to like make those impacts? Or when your whole team is feeding, but you're not, like, because I guess like KD is one of the things that they said are in that as far as the individual performance rankings. So it would be interesting to know what all of those different parameters or metrics are that they're basing people off of for that individual rating.
Yeah, and I like the concept of like how it was talked about and what it's supposed to do, and I was really looking forward to it. What actually happened seemed a lot different. I think it was Prismaticism, who had a video, like, basically he had a game as ETC, where he played as you would in a competitive setting, knowing when to slide, how to CC properly, how to peel properly, and he got like -49 performance-based adjustment, and then he played a Muradin game and just padded stats the entire game, and got +50.
Interesting.
So there were issues, and I experienced it too. I was playing a game of Greymane, and I fed like crazy. I got -28. I lost. I'm like, yeah, I deserve that. Then, like 2 games later, I played Cassia. It was on Infernal Shrines, and I knowingly didn't do as much damage as I probably could have, especially with charged strikes. And they had like 3 melee. I died 3 times, which is okay. But I still I had like a lot of kills. I didn't do anything terribly wrong. like I died when I just in the team fight. Like I had one solo, like 1v1 death. That was my fault. The other two were just in team fights, and the healer couldn't get to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I get negative 22 in the win. And like, I understand if I did poorly or not as good as I could have, but I didn't do like 2 games ago bad.
Right when I fed
I didn't die 9 times.
Yeah.
I did decent. Maybe like a negative 3 or something like that, but not negative 22. So I'm happy that it's out, and I'd like it to be re-implemented later. And like, I don't know, like I think it needs to be changed how it's like looking at factors of the game, not just stats.
I agree with that.
Like if it's probably really hard to do. Like, let's say you're playing Murden. How many impactful Qs are you hitting compared to just hitting a Q? You know,
that's hard. I feel like you do percentage, right? Like, what's the percentage of Qs that you throw that hit?
Mm-hmm. Or like percentage of Qs within a kill, and you weren't the killing blow, or something like that. That would be the best way to do it, I think. Anyway, my point is, I'm happy they did it. I'm happy they are trying things. It's okay if they don't work. It means they can look at it again and fix it if they want to keep going with it.
I agree. Berserk 12 Envy, how's it going in the chat, says, what if they defined roles and got rid of the support/healer, tank/bruiser argument, and then had ranked based on role?
Like League? I mean, not that League has it per role, but like in League, you have to queue is what you're going to play, right? Like you have to pick like 1 or 2, like I will play ranked or support, or I will play support or ranked, and you have to do it like that. But I do understand like there is like a definition disparity between support and healer and tank and bruiser sometimes, that like if somebody's like, you're like, oh, we need a tank, and they pick Sonya, and you're like, oh, okay.
Well, for me, my answer to that question is, I feel like those are kind of separate arguments, I guess. Because for me, the concept of having a rank is your overall assessment as a player. And versatility is a big part of that. If your team needs you to play a support this game, okay, you got to play a support. Are you flexible enough to play a support and then play a tank the next game? I think that's a large part of what constitutes a rank for me. So in that, the rank per role doesn't really connect with how I personally look at what a rank is. Like, if someone's a grandmaster, to me it's supposed to say that they're above and beyond proficient at all the roles. They might have preferred roles, but they should be able to play every aspect of the game to some measure of success. I like the idea of having a distinct, this is a support, this is a healer, this is a tank, this is a bruiser. But I put that concept as a separate thing from rank. That makes sense.
Yeah, because I think just like it is now, people will, if they have a second account, this is usually where it happens, they will only play one role. But like QM and how it affects your Hero League MMR when you first start, like you have 14 assassins and your last pick. Sometimes that doesn't work out very well. I've also seen, just today I was watching Caterpillar's stream, and he had a game on Warhead Junction, and this guy just says, I don't heal. He was last pick.
I don't heal.
And Cattle says, well, that's just what happens sometimes. You just have to deal with it and play the support. So the guy picks Vikings and literally runs it down mid the entire game.
Yeah, and like, why does Cattle have to play against someone like that? Like, Cattle's, one of the best players in the game, so that's definitely a failing of the whole system.
And that has nothing to do with like how good you are. That's just bad attitude.
Yeah. And Blizzard can't do anything about that. If someone just doesn't want to succeed,
well, they can ban them.
Yeah, if the person gets reported enough for that kind of behavior, that's definitely an avenue. But I don't think there's an automated way or like a performance-based way to really assess that. Maximilian says you can't measure tank play at higher levels yet. And Ayato said, I was hearing that they have quite a few metrics that they take that aren't shown on the scoreboard, and that the biggest problem with most people seems to be transparency of Blizzard about what has been happening with the ranked modes recently. I kind of merged those two concepts together because I think it's an amazingly daunting task to have performance-based matchmaking in a game that is as varied and complex as Heroes of the Storm. I think you need to have stats that aren't going to show up on the board really dictate how someone did. And I think a lot of it has to be contextual to the hero that you're playing. If you are playing ETC, how many power slides did you hit on an enemy hero in proximity to your teammates to show effective peel? Things like that. It would be a huge, long list of if-then conditions, but that's the arduous task they set out for themselves. And I would definitely agree that the communication of this whole progression, it hasn't exactly helped. Because even now, can you say with certainty that there's not going to be another rank reset?
No.
I can't. Not after yesterday.
I can't. So, without knowing that, it's like you're committing time to your rank if you care about it that much at your own peril.
I can see that argument.
Like, I normally wait a week, maybe even 2, before I start playing ranked in normal seasons, just because I want the clown fiesta that can be placements to die down.
Yeah.
But I was...
the beginning and the end of the season. You don't play those first 2 weeks and the last 2 weeks.
I was doubly concerned about all that once I heard about all these like rank resets and things that were going on. I think if people just were given an unabashed, account of things could have gone better, for sure. I feel like there was, I don't know. I don't want to speculate too much on what Blizzard were or were not doing. I would just say it's a hot button issue, and I can understand how some of the usual protocols would be put aside to have an immediate reaction at something that's very volatile in the community, and haste can lead to further complications.
I think Maximilian Hotz brings up a good point in chat where he says, I think everyone can say that there is not going to be another rank reset. People have 10,000 master points. If they reset, some of these guys will just quit. Which I think is true.
Yeah.
I think there definitely will be people that just get so frustrated that are like, whatever, I'm done. I'll go play something else. And that's like, I mean, it gets a response for somebody. It's frustrating. I think it's always frustrating when you are playing at a high skill caliber and you're putting so much time and effort. It's something that I think that things like this feel very personal. And they are personal because it's your personal rank and it's your personal time and energy and commitment. So, I mean, it would be really sad if people quit because of it, but I have to say that it probably will happen.
I think we could see some of the more prominent players feel that kind of way. Some people in the community, no matter what level, might feel. Because you're right, like, at the end of the day, it's your time out of your life, of which you only get one. That, I mean, if you're not feeling like you're getting that return of investment, that's fair. Blizzard Qualm said, this is making the good players quit. Even worse, I think. I guess here's my thing, and it's more kind of like, it's partially whataboutism, but for the longest time, Hero League, in some avenues and through some perspectives, to me, hasn't historically been seen as all that serious a thing. People call it a clown fiesta, people say whatever, they say that, this diamond person shouldn't be diamond. This X rank shouldn't be this. How are they here? And it just seems like a lot of these people that are the most flagrant about their complaints, I'm sure if you look back in their history, they're like the same people that discount the value of Hero League. So it's like, how are you going to disparage Hero League and then get so mad that you might quit the game if the rank gets reset? Like, be honest with your values. If it's that important to you, cool. But once all this is sorted out and it's fixed, don't turn around and then say Hero League doesn't mean that much. Because to me, you'd be playing both sides of the equation. I don't think that really works.
Yeah, you keep like, oh god, the sky is ending. This thing that doesn't matter anymore.
Oh, I don't care about Hero League.
I get you.
What do you mean you reset my rank? You know how much time I've like. I don't think you can play both sides of that. Blizzard Quantum said, played 2 games of Hero League today, got tired of the low quality games, had to ping for low players. It shouldn't be Master 1000. That's fair.
Yeah, I had to deal with that a couple of. I literally taught people how to play Warhead Junction. That was fun. Just the NA way to play it. You get the boss and you end the game.
Oh.
Take Lily. Take Lily, get the boss.
I was playing Vala that game. I'm like, okay, we're going to do this boss, and then this boss, and then this boss, and then this boss, and then we're going to end the game. Okay? Easy. And no one would believe me, so I literally just walked up to the keep and made my team save me. Like, just do this. You win the game. It's very easy.
I mean, that kind of leads in the question Berserk 12 MD just asked, why not try to help those low players instead of degrading them?
I think it's the example what Arky said, where it's like the guy that was plat last season who then was banning and then like didn't play as a team player and then like was toxic the whole game himself.
Yeah.
I think you're going to get some of those. I think you might run into a measure of what I would call baseless prima donnas. It's like, look, man, like you were gold too, guys. So, like, it might say Master 1000 next to your name, but let's be real with each other. The answer to that question, Berserk, for me, kind of opens a Pandora's box because it's like, that's a societal issue. It takes effort. I guess that would be my answer to that question. It takes effort to positively communicate with other people, with your peers, and work towards overall group success. It is much easier to blame someone else and put them down so you feel better about your own play than anything else. And we're all human beings. We all can fall victim to that to varying degrees. But I'm sure there are a number of people who just feel like, even if I did put in that time, who's to say how that person's going to respond to it? They might be toxic about it. They might not hear a word I have to say. I've been jaded by past experiences trying to do something like this. I don't feel like doing it. I don't know. I think it would take a lot outside of just this game to really address that. First, this is my opinion
anyway. To go off what Max was saying, I personally think that people found their scapegoat when the games are really bad. It's Blizzard's fault, and I personally don't feel this. Sure, some games are a bit bad and people int, but generally not, and this isn't Master 1K. Well, something is wrong with what Blizzard did. They're trying to fix it. It was their fault. They're trying to fix it. The problem is there is a vast increase in the amount of people at Master 1K, so the games are worse because they're not supposed to be there. And I think, who was it? Blizzard Quantum said 32% are in Diamond right now. Diamond should be like 10% of the player base or something like that, I think is what they wanted to do. So yeah, like there's a lot more people in the higher ranks that shouldn't be there. And it's mainly just the player either doesn't have the game knowledge that the higher end players do, and thus is kind of making the game harder and less enjoyable, because I don't want to ping the Sylvanas 17,000 times to tell her to not be top lane.
Right.
And then, or they just don't have the mechanical skill to keep up.
Yeah.
It's like, look at, for example, Cure, or like any pro player, really. Cure, I like to use as an example. Put him in a 1v1 against someone who's plat 2, even if it's a losing matchup for Cure, hero-wise, Cure's going to win, because he's just a better mechanical player.
I'm trying to think more about the question Berserk asked, because he was like, the world's full of certain type of people, and I don't want to leave it at that. I guess going off of what you said, Argy, if I rightfully climb my way into the master ranks, my own subjective opinion is I shouldn't have to ping that Sylvanas that much, because the level of play, that prerequisite, that checkbox should have been checked back at platinum. Like I shouldn't have to do that.
And there is that.
And I guess it's kind of subjective about like what does it mean to be this rank? What does it mean to be that rank? And it's kind of hard to define. But at the same time, I think it's got to get defined sooner or later. I actually feel like one thing I've always hoped for, and Blizzard has started to do this with articles from HTC players, is open up the doors for education. Like, I want in the launcher videos to be available or links to articles about improving your level of play. Make it easy and accessible from who are effectively the ambassadors of the community, the HTC players. Mm-hmm. People that are paid by Blizzard to play the game at a high level. Have them put together content that says like, hey, if you rotate like this as a team, you can do this. If you take this build, you can do that. And then there's less of an excuse. If you're going to play ranked, you want to weigh and assess how good you are as a player. If Blizzard's like, here's a whole wealth of content that will help you become the best player that you can be, and you choose not to do that, then over time, their rank should fall to a position that reflects that. But the people who genuinely want to improve, who just aren't at that place yet, they then have tools to help officially create a baseline of game knowledge, because I just don't think we have that right now.
I can do a couple plugs if you want.
Lay them on us.
For educational purposes. Blizzard just started doing, well, I think they've done it before, but I know they've done it a couple times this week. They're doing Play Like a Pro, I think is what it's called.
Yep.
Yeah, Play Like a Pro.
Yep.
And they feature professionals that are streaming. I know they've done it with Psalm. I think he was the first one to do it, and I know they did it with Fan yesterday.
They did it with Crowan,
so,
too.
Yep, Crowan as well. And they put that on the launcher, so if you see that, go and watch them. Like, for those streams, I'm pretty sure the players are teaching or trying to teach people. So,
yeah.
Along with that, on Sunday nights at 7 Pacific, if I remember correctly, Kala, the coach of Tempo Storm, does community coaching, where he takes replays from the community, completely free. I think he gives priority to subs, but I know I've seen several that aren't subs that get it. And he goes over the replay with them and teaches them what to do. Like, he's trying to educate the community, which is good.
RNG bliss.
And I know a lot of people like complain at pros about, don't get mad at me when you're not trying to like help. You're just flaming people.
Right.
Here's content of them literally trying to help you. So
I mean, there's a lot of pros that are, I think, more willing to help people than others.
That's for sure. That is 100% true. There are some pros that I know will.
But there are resources, I think, is what you're saying. Yeah. Basically, it's like there's lots of resources, and a lot of those, even when they aren't necessarily doing this play like the pros, like when you go to Psalm or Fan or Crone's stream, like they're telling you why they're doing things, they're talking about draft, and I honestly believe that the pros are some of the best people to learn about the game from, because they're the ones that are playing it at the highest caliber.
And to kind of echo what Lauren was saying, the written stuff is really nice. Like if Tempo puts out a guide, or if Blizzard has something with, like, I think they talked with Glaurung or Psalm about the stealth reworks, like, and how they're supposed to work. That's good, but it's a lot different to read it and then to see it in practice, because you can kind of emulate much easier when you see what's supposed to be done than when you just read it.
Definitely.
I got a question for you guys and everyone in the chat. I want to hear your thoughts and takes on this. How about Blizzard institutes a program where if you show up to some of these Play with the Pros, you know, they've already done stuff linked to people's Twitch accounts, you get some kind of reward, be it gold, shards, whatever. You confirm that you watch some of these videos, you get gold, shards, whatever. Like, you actually incentivize the community at large to take in this content. How do you guys feel about that?
That would be great.
Exclamation point portrait.
Coaching. Yeah, exclamation point learned it. Like,
right.
There's like a card, there's like a whole thing, like, did you get your tanking stamp? Did you get your, like, range stamp, your melee stamp? Like, oh, they all these different pros or, like, specialists, and you have to learn all your things from them so you can get the whole collection.
There's going to be one Play Like the Pro with just Varian.
Well, I mean, the reason
just
why...
jam E.
The reason why I have that idea is that, you know, we're all human beings. And once you learn a habit, it can be very difficult to unlearn a habit. And Heroes of the Storm has been such an openly expressive game that, like, you learn your methodologies in Heroes just through your own experience. Maybe if you have the, you know, wherewithal to go out and look at some of these streams, to read articles and engage in content to improve your game knowledge, sure. But there is a large swath of the community that just started playing the game, and they found one thing that worked from one time, and then their opinion gets set. And that opinion might not be the most accurate or the most productive or the most positive. And I really feel like Blizzard showing that effort, I mean, it's virtual currency that they're giving away. I don't know.
Marva says, scheduled maintenance December 20th at 12 p.m. PST.
Oh.
I guess that's normal maintenance, though, right?
Normal maintenance is on Tuesdays.
Oh.
That's tomorrow.
Yeah. Unless
tomorrow's Tuesday.
Wednesday.
And they normally do it in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And it lasts, well, I'm used to Warcraft maintenance, which is Tuesday at 9 a.m. and goes until 11.
But previously, Maximilian said, but Reddit was crying for an MMR reset for years, and here you go. Not much fun, is it? I mean,
it was MMR reset. It was just a season reset.
Well,
Reddit court
almost like fun.
Reddit court's always gonna be its own thing, but I don't think this checks the box of an MMR reset. It's not saying every person, your MMR is now 0. Go have fun. Like it wasn't that dramatic. So I think this could potentially give some foreshadowing to what that would be like. It's like, hey, these are some real life games with people that were gold and you're a master, and this is what it could be like. I think Grubby actually made a really good point when I was watching a stream the other day. Like, a full rank reset would throw this game into chaos for months. Like, ultimately, people, you know, it might shake out. People should fall where they're supposed to be. But getting there? Talking about a war of attrition I'd say 75% of your games would be a roaring dumpster fire for at least 8 weeks.
Hair pulling out, dumpster fire.
This is fine, dog. Dumpster fire.
Well, because it would be to the extreme, who has more bad players just by happenstance, right? Who has more bad players on their team?
That's always been my chief complaint about Heroes of the Storm. I'm a solitary person that struggles with being social. And I sometimes just want to hop into Heroes, play by myself, and more often than I would like, a game just feels like, well, this person, we needed a solo laner in our draft, and they just took like something that doesn't fit that at all. And it's just immediately apparent, like, this person's understanding of the game is not on the same page as everyone else. You're probably not going to win that game. Just because of how team-reliant Heroes of the Storm is. So when you have a game that's, from a philosophical standpoint, aimed at, rewarding teamwork, and you have these avenues to play the game, I guess it kind of segues into the voice comms discussion. But right now, as it sits right now, you don't have that. So you're just going into Hero League by yourself in a game that is heavily reliant on teamwork, where everyone's understanding of the game is varied and is so varied that the requisite amount of level of play that's required of all 5 people might not be there. And operating at 85% capacity against a team that's operating at 105 because of matchmaking, you're probably looking at the defeat screen sooner rather than later.
So this is kind of like not like off topic, but I just thought about it. Do you think that they will ever put a concede option in HOTS like they have in League? For when you're in that situation where all is bleak.
I always struggle with that idea. And as much as part of me would want that, I don't think that should be added in the game. Because whereas I think because it's all subjective. Like, I feel I would be reasonable about that. But then so would everyone else. So, you get into a game 2 minutes in, someone's died 2.5 times, and people are calling GG, the game might not exactly be over. So I just think that would be abused for the wrong reasons. And Cure DGF makes a good point. In a mobile league where a game's 50 minutes long, yeah, I can see how you would need something like that, but these games generally last, I would say, 14 to 22 minutes.
Yeah. I can't ever imagine having it in HOTS because they're you can always turn, how many late, bad core call, turnarounds do we see in HOTS? A lot. So I don't ever think that, the fat lady has ever sung in HOTS, at any point, is my personal thing. So I hope it would never be in there, but I think that, a lot of people have the, defeatist attitude where they're I just want to get in my next game. So I don't know.
And like I said, I mentioned the concept of voice chat. I feel like it's been discussed a lot over social media and it's been through the ringer in Reddit court. But as far as making it easier to help players improve, like Aito said, it is much easier to just talk while you're playing a game than to sit there and type. So one of the positive aspects I personally feel is going to be there will be that knowledge sharing. It will be easier to empathize with the human beings you're playing with rather than just seeing some Vala going out there and getting themselves killed. It's hey, stand behind me. I'm the tank. You don't have to do that. And they're okay.
Why are you standing there?
If they're just okay and you can tell that they genuinely want to succeed, They're not being like toxic about it or anything. It's a lot easier to read that over voice than just text. So, I don't know. But when you're like conditions, like if you're down 4 levels, I feel like if you have something like that, then the person that would otherwise abuse the concede button would just try to force that condition to be met. Mm-hmm. Like if they're like, GG, running it down mid, boys.
Mm-hmm. Here I go.
And they give you the ultimatum, forfeit, or I just keep running it down
mid. Right.
And at that point, I'm just going to be like, okay, run it down mid. Yeah, but this is 15 minutes of my time. I'll report you. Bye.
Exactly. Doesn't that seem like that's how you get people like all right, well, that's a person that shouldn't be playing ranked because like they can't play like a team, which there's really hard in HOTS, which I think is the problem, right? Is that there's so many people that don't want to play as a team player in this game, which causes all those issues. They want to stand in front of tanks, they want to go off in the lane and do something by themselves, and those are the frustrating parts.
The more I think about it, no matter what happens, no matter how perfect or flawed performance-based matchmaking may be, getting quality games or evenly matched games consistently is gonna cost the community blood, sweat, and tears. I hate to say it, but it's just what it is. You're gonna have to go through games where you're just gonna have some clunkers. Like they're just gonna be bad. And hopefully over time, the reasons why those are bad, those players move towards a rank that they're supposed to be at. But there's no magical way to just say like, hey, these 10 players are all gonna be on the same page. I would love for that to be. I'd be playing Heroes a heck of a lot more. I would feel a heck of a lot better. But there's just no... One Diamond 1 player could be wholly different from another Diamond 1 player. And that was before this current season. It's going to take a lot from Blizzard. It's going to take a lot from us for that day ever comes around. IMO. Hate to break it to you.
Do we want to talk about the other sort of thing? Do we want to talk about stealth at all?
Well, I think we've all expressed our opinions on the performance-based matchmaking, the current ongoing situation. I think we can move on to the other part of the discussion we were looking to have tonight. I was really curious to hear how the community's feeling about these current changes that came out. The laning phase changed, the stealth changes. You know, I feel like this is Heroes 3.0 we're playing, to be honest. I think it's more of an impact on the game than how you get skins. Like Heroes 2.0 was awesome, but once you loaded in the game was the same. You put down sprays and stuff, but the game was the same. It feels very different now. So, May, what are your thoughts on the stealth heroes thus far?
You know, I have never been I don't play any stealth heroes per se. It's not my like kit of heroes. So just from like the playing against or with the stealth heroes, I think that at my rank, because I'm like gold, so like nobody really knows what they're doing anyway. I don't know if it's actually changed anything. I think that people who were like highly observant and were like map aware, I think that it's maybe, I don't know if it's easier. I don't think it's changed at all for them, but I think that for people that are not map aware at all, it may be like a little bit harder to play against stealth.
Yeah, especially against certain heroes. Like, you can see them a lot easier, which is great, and it's easier to like get them out of stealth if you have the characters to do it. Because if you don't have any way of getting people out of stealth, it sucks. And I have learned that the hard way. But I have learned two things. Valeera is freaking busted, and I am banning it every time that I can, or playing it. I suck at Valeera, and I am 100% win rate this season with Valeera. Just saying. And then, not a lot of people know how to play Zeratul yet. There's some really good ones, and there's some really bad ones. And Nova's a decent hero now. Samuro still sucks. Stop trying to play it, please.
Yeah, I would largely have to echo what you guys have said and what's been expressed in the chat. Samuro, I feel like the skill ceiling requirement for him to be effective is too high, or at least high enough to where if you get dumpstered by a Samuro, you gotta come away feeling like, wow, that's a good player.
Like,
because the average player, they're not going to do much with Samurai. Zeratul, I think, is a more accessible hero to display mechanical prowess, especially with the new ultimate. So I think, like, a Glaurung is going to love the new Zeratul because you can express how good a player you are. You can do things that another player would not be able to do with that hero. And I feel like Zeratul embodies that a lot with this current patch. Nova, I've always found Nova to be annoying. If anything, because like whenever I play a quick match game, Nova would show up, and it's like
One trick
it's
Nova.
just annoying to play against. And you gave Nova a hard escape, or at least what I would call a hard escape. Like, she has a get out of jail free card now. For the most part.
That activatable?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she does more than respectable measures of damage. So
She's pretty.
I would say she's to a lesser degree a problem than Valeera. But Valeera is at odds with the whole stealth change concept, in my opinion. It's like, yeah, we want to be able to see these heroes more easily, so we're changing the shaders. And then as an offset, we're going to give them some buffs in some areas. We're going to allow Valeera to jump out of a bush and stop you from pressing buttons for 2.75 seconds.
Yeah.
So you don't need to see her. She's there on your face, and you have no response whatsoever. Any coordinated heroes play, you see silence for 2.5 seconds, you throw a gravity lapse, you throw a power slide afterwards. You can easily lock someone down for 5+ seconds.
Yeah, it's it's honestly the teleport. Like, I know the silence is oppressive, but it's that teleport. Even if, like, I was playing a game as Genji against a Valeera on BOE, I think, and I have a way to get her out of stealth. But I throw my Q out and she just ports on me. And I am at half health before the silence is gone. It's not fun. It's just like, oh, I'm gonna die. Actually, this is bad.
Like,
I think stealth assassin classes and heroes, I think in any game are always the hardest thing to balance, because that line between underpowered and overpowered is really thin when you have a toolkit like that, I think.
And I kind of like that the stealth characters were kind of bad for a long time. Yeah. Because it just kind of put that whole can of worms to the side. But now we live, guys, in an iteration of reality where you're not first banning Valeera at your own peril. You're leaving Nova out there as a potential threat. What? Like, I don't know.
New world.
I think as a consequence, we're seeing a lot more Garrosh. Because where someone would just blindly ban Garrosh, it's just like, now that person's hip to the meta enough to know to take Valir off the board. And then Garrosh shows up, and all the reasons why Garrosh has been banned so much hasn't changed. So...
Yeah, the two most common bans I see now are Garrosh and Valyria. And if it's not one of those two, it's probably Genji.
And if one of those two make it through, they're any team would be well served to first pick all that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I see Nova getting nerfed. I see Valyria getting nerfed. I see Zeratul, which according to Hawks plays a lot like LeBlanc. I guess that's a lead character. Have a high heal cap, which
pretty lady,
high skill cap, which is nice. And I like that. I feel like Blizzard hit the right notes with Zeratul. I think Zeratul plays like a character. If you have the mechanical skill, Zeratul feels like a nightmare. And when you get rocked by it, you come away more feeling like, wow, that guy was pretty good at the game. Yeah. As opposed to someone point-click teleporting you to you and shutting you down for 2.75 seconds and serving you up on a platter for whatever follow-up CC your team has.
Sure.
You know how they have the hero difficulty thing? Which I have completely forgotten about until recently. Zeratul's the first hero that I actually believe is very hard. Because if you get good with him, and it takes a while to get good with him, I think. Yeah. He's probably one of the best heroes in the game.
There are some players...
Just the amount of mobility that he has now is insane.
I mean, Zeratul's at a place right now. If you're Glaurung and you go in the Hero League, in like an average game, if his team needed a tank, he could still take Zeratul and probably win that game for the team.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of how much burst damage and mobility Zeratul as a hero brings to the table. And if you have the mechanical skill to maneuver around and chase people down and use Vorpal Blade and whatnot, he's at that place. But if you're not good at Zeratul, it's not going to look right at all.
I mean, yeah, Zeratul is probably... Like, I think you, like, hit on it perfectly when you're, like, when you get killed by Zeratul, when you're, like, 1v1ing a Zeratul, or Zeratul's making plays, like, there's a lot involved in that, right? Versus, like, Nova sniping you out of a bush, or Valyria doing Valyria things. Like, there is, like, a play potential there. And I think that playing against it with Stealth on your team, it's like a different macro meta, too. And I think that's something that takes people, like, it's really hard for people to play against if they don't understand it. Just because, like, rotations are totally different. Like, camping, if you don't have somebody who's, like, cognizant of the stealth on the other team, like, that's your weak link that's going to lose you the game. It only takes one person to just, like, try to rotate a bunch of times and die each time, you know?
Yeah. I think largely it comes down to for me, in general, from a balancing perspective, is the ratio of required skill to net effectiveness. If you're a really good Zeratul player, you jump out there, you press all these buttons in a very specific order, you get a kill, but you're doing that at the risk of being power slid on or something like that. Like, there are responses that the immediate target can make. Skill to be effective. Compare that to Valyria. A point-click teleport to you and stop you from pressing buttons for 2.75 seconds. So you actually can't respond. Lower skill bar, arguably even higher level of effectiveness. You gotta break your neck to be good at Zeratul. I don't think it takes I haven't played Valyria that much. But I don't think it's too hard to drop into stealth and then teleport on someone. That's all I'm saying. But there are other big parts to the changes that came out with this patch. The biggest of which, in my opinion, being the laning phase.
Mm-hmm.
You play heroes at a high level consistently in Hero League. How do you feel about the laning changes now that you had time to let it marinate for a little bit?
Okay, so I like 98% of it. I'm still a lot of people have told me that they don't believe that wave clear is as important now, whereas I think it's the opposite, and I think wave clear is even more important because of how much damage. Like, they got rid of ammo,
right,
which is fine, but they reduce the damage that structures do and increase the damage that minions do. So if you don't control a lane, it's going to get pushed even harder. If that makes sense, basically.
Yeah.
So wave clear is, I think, more important now. I'm okay with that, with all those changes. Like, you just have to be more wary and like soak lanes better. Otherwise, yeah, you're kind of screwed. The true state on towers was a little interesting to get used to.
Mm-hmm.
On the one game of Valyria that I had. One of my favorite things that's changed is the regen globes. If you are good enough and you're able to bully your team or the enemy team out of the lane and you can get both globes, that's huge. Like, you get so much more value out of it. Like, ETC can complete his regen quest in like 5 minutes now if it's done perfectly, which is pretty incredible. I know I think it was the Rag quest, the Rag level 4 armor quest in like 7 minutes.
Wow.
A lot of people don't like how the camps have changed.
Yeah.
The bruisers, or not the bruisers, the firebat camps are stupid good. Like, they need to, I think, nerf them a little bit. Maybe nerf their health for how much damage they're doing to structures. I think that would be a good nerf.
Because can't they not get hit by structures back too? Or it doesn't.
They're prioritized, I think, over regular minions,
Mm-hmm.
but they lower the armor on the structures.
Oh,
so
I didn't
minions
know that.
do even more damage to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like, I think it was last Wednesday for HeroesHype, I watched a team with Sylvanas who had Merc Lord or Merc Queen get a keep at 6 minutes just off of that one push with just that one camp too. They didn't have both camps; they had the one.
Was she left entirely on her own, or was that
no?
Like,
it was a 4-man push,
and the response was there.
soaking.
Like, the enemy team showed up like they're doing this, guys. We got to get here.
Mm-hmm. They just can't.
So in spite of their best effort,
so the structures are disabled and taking extra damage. So you're just kind of screwed. Most of the camps are fine. I haven't found the night camp to be as impactful as a lot of the pros were making it out to be. Like, the spell armor is still good and it does stack. So if you get both and you can push, like if you get both night camps on Dragonshire and you push top, you can get a keep pretty easily, actually, because you're gonna have 30 spell armor in that circle. But like, the siege camp on Cursed hasn't changed, like the giants. The night camps on the StarCraft maps haven't changed. The sappers haven't really changed outside of timings. So like, they're still basically the same thing. I actually really like that they're all at 1 minute now. I think it has changed, along with the timers for objectives, actually makes it more fun. Maybe not fun. Like, it's more enjoyable for me because I'm learning new timings. But like, figuring out how best to set up camps and when to have them push, because I think that's really good. Because now you can get a siege camp right away at 1 minute, push lane in a bit. Like some people are doing both camps right away. I don't think that's the correct way to do it. With objective spawning at like 5 minutes or 4 minutes in, you can get even like 2 sets of camps out now.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and like just learning the timings is fun for me. As I've said that already.
It definitely makes.
But now I think you can get a lot more effectiveness out of them.
Yeah.
And how the timings work out, I think it's actually better now.
Well,
I do like there's one more thing. Sorry, the objective information, like knowing where the curse will be, or knowing where the temples on Sky Temple will be, really early.
Right.
Also, I think like bleeds into the camps, like knowing when to use the camps, since you know everything else. I think is good. So like you can plan around it.
That's fair.
And I think it'll lead to more, maybe not scripted. I think that's a bad way to put it, but it might seem scripted, but it'll be more exciting gameplay, I think, in the end. At least in the competitive scene. Like, both teams know exactly what's going to happen, so they are planning around having a fight here,
right,
at point X, because that they need to either force a fight before a talent tier advantage. So we all know exactly where the other team is going to be at this point because of that. So, and I think you could do that a little bit before, but not nearly as much because of how random things could be.
That's fair. It's definitely fair.
You can maximize efficiency when you know exactly when things are happening versus it being RNG.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think a team in general can be more rewarded for having sound macro decisions when it comes to camps with this current change. One thing that I personally found is like, I always felt like a sense of comfort in getting what I would call free structural value. Like, once a tower ran out of ammo, even if no one was in that lane, like, sooner or later, the minions were going to chip away at that enough to where I can go down there and get it for free or whatever. Or it would just be taken down wholesale. Whereas in my games, I felt like if a structure went down, like, someone had to be there to do it. At least outside of camps in like Brax's holdout, because like but one thing I'm curious about, I don't know if I'm excited or concerned about it. Hawks and I had a game last night. It was on Dragonshire, and the enemy team had Gazlo and Junkrat, and I was like laughing my ass off. At first, I was like, "What kind of composition is this?" But all Gazlo did was go around and get all the camps all the time. And our team weren't exactly kings of wave clear. So it just felt like even if we won a team fight, we'd have to go back and try to put fires out. Or the longer the team fight went on, the more we were just losing out on overall. And I was like, is the concept of the jungler going to be more of a thing?
Maybe.
Because if the rest of the team is solid enough to allow a Gazlo to go around and just do camps all day on any battleground, well, in my opinion, particularly Dragonshire, like, that's going to be hard to deal with. Mm-hmm. If you don't have I agree with you, Argy, if you don't have the wave clear in certain situations, you're probably going to get rocked.
Yep.
I was going to put that
And having someone that can actually do camps is important, too.
Yeah.
Like, I remember the day of the patch, I tried to do the fire bat camp, I think. I don't remember who I was playing, but I literally just couldn't do it. Whereas last patch I could have, because and with reducing armor on structures, they reduce your armor, too.
I know all
when
that.
You're fighting them. So, I was just getting chunked out, and I couldn't do anything.
Yeah, man. I played a Braxis holdout game, and I mean, my team was struggling all the way around anyway, but like they stole our fireback camp, and I was just like, it's not a big deal. That camp doesn't do that much. I was going off of old information because that one camp went through 100% of a fort and got through damn near the keep wall before someone had to run up there and like deal with it. It was rough, man. D the Hunter said, I nearly died with Karazim doing the fireback camps on Warhead. Never felt so scared in my life.
Yeah, the fireback camp is scary now. I think it might be the strongest camp in the game. Outside of a boss, obviously. But
I think that camp, the most, is a threat either on its own, free pushing, or pushing with people. Like that armor reduction on structures. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I think come HGC next year, Braxis and Warhead are either going to be permabanned by teams, or when they do get played, there's going to be some sort of cheese that comes out. I mean, obviously that's what it is on Warhead now with Zarya, for NA at least, but Braxis is going to be just like that now.
Well, there's one thing I wanted to get you guys' opinion on, and everyone in the chat, obviously. I love Volskaya Foundry as a map, conceptually. I think it has a lot of the checkboxes of what I enjoy about Heroes of the Storm. Like a call to action on the map. You show up, you play that new hero brawler, but you also have some macro options as well. But even before this current patch, I felt like the robot didn't do enough. Like, more often than not, if two people get into the robot, the other people are very likely to just get killed if they try to push, especially early on. And I was like, all right, you started to see a meta where one person would be in the robot and they kind of switch seats and then they kind of do it like that. And on that kind of worked. But I actually think you can just ignore the objective all game and do better than showing up and having some long, drawn-out team fight where your team wins it with a scrap of health, and then you all got a hard back anyway if you want to try to get any sizable push, and then you show up with the robot, finally, and then it just gets melted down.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just feel like that map really took a hit because of this change. I'm not entirely sure why.
I haven't played it because it's not in the Hero League rotation anymore. So I can't really say. It did need some. I think it did need a little buff. But at least the robot did. Mm-hmm. And I also want like the objective to be shorter. I think it lasts too long. Because like you could fully wipe the enemy team early game, and they'd be back to contest it, and I don't like that. I don't know. The game, that map in particular, lasted too long for me. I think D the Hunter said, Volskaya, you always want one person in the mech. I think there are comps that one person in there is better, and some comps that two people in there are better. I think with double support being gone, basically now, it'll usually be one person swapping in between. And you could have, like, it's nice that you can have people hop in and out. So you could have two people in there to push down a fort. And then if something bad is happening, like let's say the tank, one of the tanks is in it, and you need the peel all of a sudden, he can hop out and help peel and get the kill, stuff like that. So that map, I think of all the new maps since HGC started, is the one that I want in the map pool.
I would like it to be in there as well.
I think that'd be interesting. And even the show matches that they did when the map came out, they were good.
Refresh my memory, because I don't think this is the case, but the team that wins the robot, the Region Globe show up for them?
Yes. I think it was one. Might be two.
I think there should be 3 Region Globes
a bunch
for the team that wins the objective. Because
God, imagine a Diablo winning that. Oh God, he's at like 1 health.
He would be fine. But I say that because, you know, like Romo, some other people are lamenting on how long the map is, and I think a lot of that has to do with, you know, as far as Hero League goes, I'm high plat. If I committed time to it, I'd probably say I can get to Diamond 2, Diamond 1 if I put in the time. I don't think I'm an expert at the game by any stretch of imagination, but I know what I'm doing. Like I know the game, so keep that in mind when I say this. Most of the games I play on this map, one of the teams go in at the beginning, they win the team fight pretty handily. It's like 2 or 3 people on the other side get taken out, but it's early enough in the game to where the death timers come back, like they just come back, and then the team that won that initial part of the fight just kind of like splintered off, started doing other things because it's like, all right, the objective's over, we won, guys. And then that team comes back full force as 5 people and rock the people that are still sitting there. And then they end up winning the objective. Only by the mid game, this progression shifts a little bit. And the team that wins usually has lost 1 or 2 heroes. And they're so banged up that they can't even really go over there and push for the key. It's like, I got 20% health, and I'm out of mana. I got a Hearth back. So by the time you do that and jockey your way all the way over across this large battleground, the enemy team that you just beat is right there anyway. And it just feels like you can't get ahead on that map. So I don't know.
It doesn't.
I don't know. If they're gonna keep the robot doing what it does now and the numbers that it does, the team that wins that objective, I feel, should get 3 region globes, so they don't have to Hearth back, and they can just start pushing right away. Because otherwise, it's just like you're going in there half cocked because you're low on health or whatever, so you might die. Or if you Hearth back, one of the last game I had on this map last night, my team wins the team fight, but we're low, so we have to Hearth back. And the team that we just killed came back and beat down the robot.
Oh no!
Got in it.
Yep, that's the problem. At least in the early game, like you full wipe a team, you win the objective, but you're all really low, and they come back and kill it before you do anything, or even can get in it, or they come back and contest it before it's taken.
Yeah.
And you are so low because of the last fight, and you don't happen to have a well or your tap is gone already, and then you just lose.
I don't know, man. That game, that map just feels like Jabated, the Twitch emote, but a battleground.
It does.
Because
it's like a cluster.
You end up committing time and resources in some way where it's ultimately an Acme Dynamite kit. And you're just like, wow. We actually would have been better off just going and pushing down the top fort rather than sitting here fighting for this robot that isn't even, nowadays, get through the front wall. Like the first robot, if the first robot gets even 50% damage on a fort, something went catastrophically wrong.
Imagine getting the full fort.
Right. Like, the enemy team has to be almost AFK.
Team wiped late game, yeah.
So, I don't know. I think a lot of the problems with that battleground existed before this current patch. But for whatever reason, to me, it just seems like, I guess maybe because the ammo's always there. Because normally, like, by the mid to late game, one like a fort would be out of ammo. So, like, if you win the robot in that lane, you just walk up and wail on it because you're going to preserve the health of the robot because you don't have to worry about the structures hitting it. But now the structures, as long as they're alive, are always going to be there. So that's damage on the mech that wasn't there before.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the effort to reward ratio seldom seems worth it to me. Because even late game, you win a team fight, you just go in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I'd like to see pros play on it. Because I think they'll
I genuinely
have a
feel,
better understanding of the map. And
I genuinely feel that in a professional game that isn't a show match where they're playing for the mid-season brawl. They win this game, they go into the mid-season brawl. The team that wins over the objective never uses the robot. Lock me in.
they first pick Naz.
Short of getting in the mech to hit W to lock down a structure. And even then, I think the time spent to do that, they could have just gone over and just wailed on a fort and taken that themselves. But that's just. Pete understood. Would it be good or healthy if the mech would be invulnerable until someone enters it?
I mean,
I think so.
If it stayed at the scale of what it was taken, because I think if you had it like that and it scaled as the map got longer or the game got longer, then you can just like play like a normal map. You win a big team fight late in the game. You get that mech that you won at 4 minutes,
right,
and you push and win the game. So if it doesn't scale, yes.
Yeah, I
think that's fine.
But that's just my humble opinion. But
I think everyone would agree with you that they have felt like that on that map. Why did I just do that? Yeah.
Broke my neck for this robot and I didn't even get a tower.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, their Asmodean went and got half my top fort on his own.
Didn't even get a t-shirt.
Right. Zagara ate up the shots and took a wall for free, and I didn't get a wall. But we've hit the 90-minute mark. We tend to shoot for a 60 to 90-minute episode, and it always seems like they run long because we just have this organic conversation involving you guys, the community. So again, thank you very much for getting involved. These are topics that I was really curious about, hot button issues, specifically with regards to the matchmaking changes, and the whole concept of HeroesHype Live is this is a place where everyone in the community shows up and expresses their opinion. We're looking forward to doing more of these. Thank you guys for hanging out. Dubber Ducky says this coming out in podcast form May.
It is on iTunes. Usually in 2 days. We usually have it on iTunes by then. So be on the lookout.
Yeah, we have a podcast format. These are also going out on YouTube as well, I believe.
Yes.
So there's definitely, avenues to hear this after the fact. But again, I feel like the best way to enjoy this content is to show up and be a part of the discussion. Be in the chat. Grits and Gravy 89 said, played 40-minute Volskaya last week. Felt like League. Another Exhibit A for all the problems I have with that Battleground. Thank you very much, Happyville. You guys have helped. You guys help it to be a great show. Till next time, May, Argy, parting words.
Be kind to each other, and everyone have a wonderfully happy holidays in the Nexus.
For those playing Hero League, don't get too salty. If you get too salty, just take a step back, get a drink of water. If they don't reset, I think this stuff will keep happening for a little bit, but eventually players who are not supposed to be there will lose points and drop down to where they're supposed to be. And those who are supposed to be there will stay. So, either or, it's going to get better. Just stay with it. So
thanks, Argy. Little did you know, Argy, throughout the course of the episode, there have been key moments where I've decided to make some NA production value level changes. I'm sorry, I just had to. So your impassioned speech, Argy, might have been given by. Whoa. See? No warning. See?
I mean, you didn't give me one, so.
That's fair. But for now, that's going to wrap up episode number 18 of HeroesHype Live. And here's many more. Until next time, follow HeroesHype Twitter channel. You always hear updates on what we're doing, which is quite a lot. We did the LATAM finals this past weekend. The amateur series is ongoing. Our next 2 amateur series, I believe, are going to be particularly special. It's time for the holidays. So yeah, plenty of content ahead. But for now, I'll take over. Take it easy, guys.